Okay, it's 5:30, let's get going. I'll start by way of introduction. I'll be your instructor for the semester. My name is Vern Visionberry. I'll be Vern. I've been teaching this class for 10 years now. I got roped into it when Dr. Clark asked me if I'd come do a guest lecture for one of his finance classes, and I guess that went well. Had me pulled into teaching a month later. To date, the feedback hasn't been quite negative enough to keep me from coming back, so I'm here. This is a hobby for me, which is good and bad for you. My real job is working as the chief investment officer for an advisory firm here in town called 2 West Advisors. We serve maybe 300 retirement plans and institutional wealth accounts, and then probably another 400 private accounts. So in total, we manage $4.6 billion in assets under management. And that gets me into conversations that span the gamut of the investing world. And that's where my history lies, I guess. What would it have been now? 27 years ago, I was in your seat. Right here at UMKC. I have a master's degree in business from UMKC, and I have a master's degree in accounting from UMKC. I'm a chartered financial analyst, and I'm a certified public accountant. Those two credentials, it's the nexus or intersection of those two credentials that is this class. So you need to have a background in accounting to go deep on the accounting, but this is not an accounting class. It's gonna feel like an accounting class, but this is not an accounting class because we don't use the accounting for the purposes of creating financial statements. We use the accounting for the purposes of understanding financial statements so we can make decisions like finance folks or investors. Because I have a tendency to see the world through the lens of an investor. That's how I'll be teaching this class. So, just out of curiosity, anybody willing to share what they hope to get out of this class this semester? Obviously, I have an agenda, but you all paid to be here. So I'm going to try to accommodate what you hope to get out of this class to the extent I can.
I'll start.
Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susan. Actually current director of finance at my credit union. And so what I'm hoping to take from this, I'm so used to the credit unions I speak for the banking world, corporate. And so I'm used to looking at more of our financial statements, but it seems external views, external companies, corporate companies, I should say. There's a lot more to learn. And so that's what I'm hoping to take away from this class, to learn more from that side of the world, be able to do analysis and provide recommendations.
Terrific. You're in the right place. As we move through the semester, we're going to be looking at the financial statements of a whole bunch of different companies. But then it's our very next job to look at their peer group, understand how the subtleties, nuances, different accounting policies and treatments might make those two comparisons apples to oranges, because that happens all the time. And then once we understand the differences in the accounting, we're just going to change the numbers. So we don't have to adhere to GAAP. We're finance folks. We're not accounting folks. We just need to understand what GAAP is telling us so that we can switch it up, make those two statements apples to apples. Once they're apples to apples, well, now we know how to make decisions, and we can fine tune your credit department relative to some of those in town. So that's a great example. When I was early on in my career, I did corporate finance for what was at the time Sprint, now T-Mobile, like patent store. I know this was circa 1997. So we were right at the beginning of the telecom media and technology bubble, and everybody was making about the money, and it was an exciting place to work. Believe it or not, we were this might amuse some. We were working on the most exciting project that I'd probably ever worked on, or at least felt in terms of just people thinking that this was really, really cool. We were working on putting the internet on the phone, and that was a big part of the bubble. We were the largest phone carrier at the time, And my job when I was working in their competitive strategy department was to do exactly that. I would take all the financials of Sprint PCS and compare them to AT&T and Singular and Verizon and T-Mobile. And then we dig into the accounting policies, so we have a firm understanding of how they were incentivizing the people and getting paid and what kind of strategies they were rolling out. So that'll be a big part of this course. Anybody else willing to share? Anybody in here, like I was in here, wanting to get their foot in the door of the investing world eventually? Anybody on the CFA track by chance? Anybody, okay, got one over here. Anybody just in here as an accounting elective? Usually I get a lot of them. Okay, this is an elective accounting class for accountants, but well, we'll have a lot of time to dig into whatever it is that you decide you want to get out of this class. Just let me know. I'm happy to take a lot of detours. You heard me boot up the Zoom at the start of the class. I try to get all of these classes Zoom. Okay, just chimed in. Okay, so hello to whoever just chimed in. You obviously downloaded the syllabus and came to recognize that there's a Zoom link. That's for ease of use. So if you're traveling, you go to this class, don't bother reaching out to me to ask if it's okay. It's okay. The classes are going to be recorded. I'm going to post them to our class YouTube site. The link to the class YouTube site is in the syllabus. So if this is the last time I see you, that's okay. I don't mind. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. I understand the way the world works, and I also understand that things get in the way. And the irony of all ironies, when I was a undergrad at K-State, I flunked this class twice because life got going. What happened? I was busy doing other stuff and wasn't particularly interested in the difference between capital lease accounting and operating lease accounting when I was a sophomore in undergrad. But I made it through and got a couple master's degrees, and now I find it a lot more interesting than I used to. So tonight we're going to go over the syllabus. I'm going to do a brief review of module 1. I'm going to tee up the homework for next week. I was going to talk about pros and cons. Because this is my hobby, the con for you all is that I'm very difficult to get a hold of. So this is the very bottom of my priorities. I have 1,000 clients that come ahead of everything that we're going to do in this class. I travel frequently, so I'm not always in town. I give you all permission to bug me. If you email me and you don't get a response, email me again. You email me again and you don't get a response, text me. You text me and you don't get a response, call me. Just stay on. I'll get to it. And in exchange for that, I will never take off late. If I'm not responsive and you can't get an answer and your assignment's late or you don't know what's going on, more time for a test or you need some more time to turn something in, fine. Take your time. I'm going to go through the syllabus and explain to you how that all works. Because obviously I can't just give everybody class as much time as they want to turn everything in, but I have a system for making this class pretty doggone flexible. The pro, hopefully, fingers crossed, is that I've been doing this for 20 years and I can share some insights that maybe another instructor doesn't work in the world of investment and advising. But they might not have the same perspective. So hopefully some of that real world perspective will make these lectures more interesting. And a few of these lectures are actually decent. The rest of them are pretty dry. Because while I can try to spice up the world of accounting as much as I want, it's still accounting. So we're gonna try very purposefully to focus on those parts of the world of accounting that can make a difference. And when I say make a difference, I like to find my clients' money. I like to find me money. I think about me, the world of investing, where we can find good opportunities, and we're going to think through that lens. A favor that I will ask of you all, because I've been teaching this class for a long time, and I have learned that you all are scared to ask questions. You like to come up to me after class and ask your questions because you're scared to raise your hand when we're in a room full of 40 people because you think it's a stupid question or what. It's not a stupid question. My pet peeve is to have to answer the same question 3 times. So the favor I'm gonna ask of you is, no matter how dumb you think your question might be, please ask it when we're all sitting here together, so I can convey that information to everybody at once. When's the test? Can I get if you're asking for a favor, ask it in front of 40 people. I'm gonna say yes. And then everybody else knows they gotta have a little leniency if they need. So that's the favor I would ask of you. Any questions? Okay, great. We're off to a good start. Just kidding. Okay, let's start with the syllabus, and I'll give you the lay of the land, so to speak. Okay, financial statement analysis, make sure we're all in the right place. So this is a blended class. We're gonna have what the textbook authors call a shell. A shell is where we go out to the textbook site and all your homework's gonna be there. So if you're in 419, you might see this labeled as 5561 and vice versa. This is an undergrad and graduate class, which means there's a different curve. If you're in 419, I'll apply the curve to only those people in 419. If you're in 5561, I'll apply the curve only to people in 5561. So don't be intimidated if you're struggling and you haven't had accounting yet. But
it is happening now though, right? Not in August.
So there's another drawback of being in the class of someone who teaches like me. I'm not typing. I downloaded the syllabus from last semester. I might have changed the room. Look, the room says 213. We're in room 211. So you all made it to the right room despite. So yes, I could have sworn I changed that. I wonder if we're even looking at the right syllabus now. Maybe I pulled it up wrong online. That is a good catch. Well, oh yeah, this is what did I do with that thing? Let's go over here to syllabus. Oh, it says fall, so I didn't get it uploaded right. I'll go back to my dashboard, see. Okay, that's spring class syllabus. Yep, I don't have the right syllabus on here. So probably not. Upload correct syllabus. I will point out the differences as we go through it. How about that? And there was another question over here. Yes. So I will upload a new syllabus and I will send out an announcement that says, hey gang, uploaded a new syllabus, go check it out. So let's pretend we're in the right room and let's pretend we're in the right semester. We'll be meeting here until May. There's the Zoom ID. That is the same every semester. That's identical. So if you ever miss class and you want to join us live, you should be able to go to that link, type in that meeting ID. The recorded lectures are posted right there on our YouTube site. That link should be good. You'll see the YouTube site is a little bit of a mess. I need to go out and clean it up. It has YouTubes from the last 6 years or so on there. So when I upload one, if you'll subscribe to the YouTube site, then you'll get notification that I've uploaded it. So that'll probably be tomorrow or the next day for this class. My information's on there. This is my cell phone. You have my my UMKC email right there on the syllabus, and you also have my cell phone. So we have course description, course objectives. I'm pretty doggone sure that that description and those objectives are pretty similar for every class you're going to take here at the block school. What the university is trying to get us to reinforce are written communication skills and verbal communication skills. So the capstone to this class is a research project. It's a heavy duty research project. I have posted several examples on Canvas for you to look at. Think 50 to 80 pages. not as daunting as it will feel when you first look at the research project. I'm gonna give you a bunch of insight tips on how to manage the project as we go forward. The best of which is that you can use AI. And I think you should use AI. I use AI every day. If you go out to AI and you say, okay, I've been assigned to do a research project for Home Depot or Lowe's or Microsoft or Disney or Campbell's Soup this semester. Here's an example that my instructor gave me from last semester that he said was pretty good. Duplicate it. See what AI does? You're probably going to be 50 to 60% of the way there. And the reason that I say that I want you to use AI is because I do realistically use it every day. I think if you graduate without a good understanding of how to use the tools that are available to you, then we've failed you. So I'm going to let other professors be the watchdogs on making sure you don't use AI to develop your written and verbal communication skills. We're analysts. At the end of the day, we're charged with understanding these companies, and we want to be directionally correct. If we're investors, we want to know if that company's going up or down. So let's use the tools. And they're getting pretty doggone good. I mean, really, really good. I'm impressed. You all probably know more so than I do how to use these things. So let's turn this course into a learning lab for everybody here. And by the time we get to the end of it, hopefully we'll all be pretty versed. Okay, the required materials. And again, I'm going to send you a correct link, but that link's going to take you out to this website. And this website has a link to financial statement analysis. Spring is the one we want. That link will be live. And you're going to see here the course home. With all of the content. So tonight, if we have time, I'm going to give you a very brief preview of Module 1, but we probably won't even have time. And that's fine, because one of the reasons that I picked this textbook is because I'm really late. And this textbook has accompanying e-lectures and guided exams. So when my lecture falls flat, or when I'm out of town and I can't give the lecture and YouTube's not doing it for you from last semester, you can come out here and get a different version of the lecture. So the textbook authors will walk you through every learning objective in the text. That's the material that's going to be on the test. So I really, really like this shell that they call it. So if you come in here and click on e-lectures, you have a little vignette that you can play for learning objectives 1 through 8, and then you have guided examples. So you'll find as we move through the text, a whole lot of this is going to be reviewed. Module 1 is basically a review. Module 1 gives you an overview of the class, how they approach the financials, the income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flows, what they are, how they're put together, who they serve. That should all be reviewed. If it's not, and you're struggling with it, get help sooner rather than later. The tutoring resources that the Block School offers, and if you're one of those students that hasn't had an accounting class in a couple of years, that happens every semester, you can get lost pretty fast. The first 4 weeks are a nice warm-up period for us because we're going to be reviewing some of the financials, managerial strategy, basic financial ratios. By the time we get to Module 5, we're in deep technical accounting. So the first exam usually goes pretty well. We usually get pretty good scores on the first exam. The second exam is where I will see the A's differentiate themselves from the B's and the C's from the B's. Very technical. Okay, this is Module 1. You'll see when you log into the shell, you're going to see modules 1 through 15. This class is organized into 15 modules. Modules 1 and 2, corporate strategy. Modules 2 through 10, accounting, and all of the nuances. Good. Modules 11 through 15, finance. So we're going to take modules 11 through 15, and we're going to take all that accounting that we've done, make the necessary adjustments, create pro forma financials. forecast those, put them into a spreadsheet, do our multiple analysis, discounted cash flow analysis, and finally create a research report on the company that we choose. The homework module. So tonight's homework assignment is from module 1. You're gonna come out here, you're gonna sign up for the class shell. You're gonna watch the videos, do whatever you need to do to get yourself comfortable with the homework, and then you're gonna click on homework from module 1, and you're gonna have 2 to 3 multiple choice questions. That's worth 10 points. This is easy. This is easy. Maybe it's not easy, but the points are available. And when I use that term, available points, what I mean is, there's no reason why you should just scoop those up. Because you can take that homework, you can queue it up as many times as you want. So click on that homework, answer the multiple choice questions. Maybe you get a 6 out of 10, maybe you get a 7 out of 10. You're like, now I need a 10 out of 10. Just take it again. Okay. Not only that, but it gets better. I'll show you where this is on Canvas. But the solutions manual that comes with the text that I get as a professor, I post it on Canvas. Okay, so you can go to the solutions manual. Now, it's not as easy as it sounds. There's a gotcha, but it's not just a matter of using the dictionary to look at the answers. You can use the solutions manual to go find the answer, but the software is smart enough that they subtly tweak the question and the numbers that are in the question so that the answer is not 1 for 1. But the pattern and the question is exactly the same. So if you can follow the question and the answers and how it was calculated in the solutions manual, then you're going to be able to follow the questions and the answers and how you calculate it for the homework. Once, almost without fail, I'll get a student that's having a little trouble with a question and they'll come up and ask me, and the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you check the solutions manual? Once a student checks the solutions manual, almost never does the question come back around to me where I still become. So again, this is how I've set up this whole class to accommodate my laziness, but it does seem to work. So check the solutions. So that's the homework for tonight. That's a quick overview of the My Business Courses website. That's where all our homework will be housed. 4 weeks from tonight, we will get to module 4. You'll see module 4 has the first exam. The first exam is worth 150 points. It's all multiple choice. You'll click on that exam. You'll take the exam. You have 2 hours to take the exam, and then you only get to do that once. It's open book, open note. All the exams are open book, open note, which I don't mean to turn this class into just a Google assignment. So the way that I police that is to time the test. So when we get to that exam, we'll talk about this again. But if you're approaching this class with the understanding that the tests are open book, open notes, so you don't need to study, you'll fail the exam. The exam, the rule of thumb I use is approach the exam as if you're going to have time to look up about a third of the question, which means you need to just flat out know 2/3 of the question, or you'll run out of time and fail the exam. So it's been a pretty good system for differentiating those of us who have spent the time with the material versus those of us who think that. Interrupt me at any time. I'm just up here yapping.
Class.
That's a great question. No, the exams are not in class. I like to use class time to talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. So the exams can be taken anytime they're taken. When we get to module 4, I'm going to open up a window, a 2-week window of time where you can take it at your convenience anytime during the holiday. So I know some of you probably travel. Take a deep breath. This class is very travel friendly. Okay. Right after this class, I'm going to post that syllabus and you'll have links to the right shell. My apologies. Okay.
I'm going to come back to talk about the research project. So as you move down through that syllabus, you'll note that we have a big chunk of this class dedicated to a research project, and I'm going to walk you through that in detail over the course of the next couple of weeks. It's there, it's hanging out over our heads a little bit. The only thing that you need to be aware of tonight is this link in the syllabus that's going to take you out to the list of companies that you have to choose from. So you're going to be spending this semester doing research on one of these companies. Click that link and it's going to take you to a list of S&P 500 dividend aristocrats. You'll scroll down and you'll see the list of stocks right here, holdings. So you can go to show all holdings at the bottom, pick from this list. I used to leave it open for anybody in the class to pick any stock they wanted to do research on, and it doesn't work very well. If you pick from this list, you're picking from a list of companies that have successfully raised their dividend every year for the last 50 years. So almost by definition, that's going to lend itself pretty well to the analysis work that we're doing in class. These aren't the sexiest companies in the world, my apologies, but we got to do the work. And these companies lend themselves well to doing the work. So select from this list. As soon as you have selected from this list, come back to wherever it was we were, I think, come back to the Canvas side over here and go to discussions, company selection forum. And I want you to post the company that you picked. So I would say, hey, this is Vern, I picked Home Depot. Now I've claimed that company. I don't want any duplicates. I don't want two of you working on the same company. So it's a first come, first serve. If you want McDonald's, get out there, claim McDonald's. I'm going to scan that list. And if I see somebody else selected your company ahead of you, I'm going to say you need to change. So beat me to that. Don't go select the company, do a bunch of work on it, and then have me come to you and say, sorry, somebody beat you that one, you got to change. This is important right here. Students should end the course with a report that they feel comfortable submitting to any future employer as a writing. That's the litmus test. If you want an A on that report, you need to feel like you could submit it to an employer as an example of the kind of work they can expect from you. So little things matter. I'm going to show you the format I want to see it in. I'm going to show you the cover page. I'm going to show you the template. Little things matter. If I get your report at the end of the semester and it has the wrong name on it, or it's formatted wonky, or it just doesn't look like a professional research report, well, then you probably have you can get a B, but you can't get an A. So maybe you don't need a A. Maybe you need a B. There's no judgment here. I'm just communicating what it takes to get an A on that research report. Okay, let's talk about the grades. I've tried to design this course with a little bit of thoughtfulness. Well, there's 1,000 points in the course. Homework's worth 200. Those are available points. Everybody in class should just say, okay, I'm going to get those 200 points. You can take those homework assignments as many times as you want. The exams will differentiate the A's from the B in the class. Those are challenging. They're each worth 150 points. You'll have a 2-week window to take it. They're open book, open note, but don't let that fool you. They can be tricky. The research report is 300 points. That's the finance section, of course. I used to teach this class with 4 exams and a research project. I dropped the 4th exam. So the first exam, modules 1 through 4. Second exam, modules 4 through 8. Third exam, modules 8 through 12. We're done with exams by the time we get to week 12. And then we have 3 weeks left of class. Those 3 weeks are dedicated to that research project. So you will have time to do this.
Now, I used to carry that with a comprehensive final and it just broke. It just broke. I get much better work on the research project when we dedicate those last 3 weeks of class. And then I have a recorded presentation to go along with that research report. I used to make students come up and give their presentation in class. I think there's value to that because of public speaking and we all need to know how to represent our ideas, but it was grind and nobody liked it. And then there was this big, I gave the class the option. I'm like, okay, we can all respectfully stay and hang around to support one another while we give our research projects, or we can vote to just leave after we give ours. So the way it unfolded, every class voted just to leave. So you'd have all the people that weren't afraid of public speaking speak first and leave, because leaving early sounded great to them. And all the people that were terrified of public speaking, they'd stay for the whole class, so they just had to give their presentation in front of me. It was a bizarre night. This seems to work a little bit better just to record it, send me the link to YouTube or Panopto or whatever it is you're using. And that's your 1,000 points. They break down 80, 70, 80, 90 typical grading scale. And then our class schedule, which I will update, has us for the homework module 1 tonight. View the e-lectures. So because I won't get to cover the complete module 1, view the e-lectures for tonight, view the guided examples for tonight, and then go find a hard copy. I don't want a soft copy. I want a hard copy of a 3x5 note card. So just little flashcard things that you used to get when you're studying. On that note card, that's exactly what these are. These are flashcards for me. I want to know who's in class, what you're studying for, maybe a little when you expect to graduate. I'm going to use that to try to learn some names. And I'm not going to do a very good job, but by the end of the semester, I'm going to know a few of you. And those flashcards really help. And in exchange for that, I'm here to connect with you on LinkedIn and hopefully provide some career advice and be a sounding board for whatever it is you're trying to do with your career. I'm going to make an effort, and it helps me out if I can get that info card, including a color picture, your preferred name, give me your whole name, but then give me what you want me to call you by, your hometown, your major, your graduation date, desired career track, and something else memorable. When I see that card and I pair it with a face, give me something memorable. That really helps me out. Tell me what the church to bar ratio was in your small town, or about the butterfly garden you'd like to attend, or how you can drink more whiskey than anybody else in class, and you're so sure of it, you're willing to prove it on St. Patty's Day this semester. I don't know, something. I would remember all of it. Yes, whatever he said. So that helps out. So here's some inside baseball for you. Those little cards, it's only worth 10 points. Then we have 1,000 points. So it's 1%. When we get to the end of the semester, somebody in this is going to be on the line between an A and B for a B and a C. And I'm going to look through the card. I'm going to say, well, do I know so and so? Nope. Never got to know that person. And my want to factor for bumping your grade up is going to discount. But if I'm flipping through those cards, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that person. Yeah, absolutely. My want to factor for bumping your grade up is going to be much higher. So it does make a difference. It seems silly, but when I'm adjusting all the grades at the end of the semester like I do, it's not as silly. Okay. My whole philosophy on grading, by the way, this is just a framework. This is a framework for assessing our primary goal, which is imparting the knowledge. So I am open to criticisms of this framework. I am open to conversations about how you've captured the knowledge in a way that wasn't reflected by this framework. I just want to know that you've captured the knowledge. I'm open to that conversation for anybody that wants to have it, but we do have to have a framework. And then we begin to move through the semester module by module. By the time we get to week 2, we will have our proxy analysis.
So this says the proxy analysis is due week 2. So that would be next Tuesday. That'd be great. If you can have it done by next Tuesday, that'd be great. If you need more time, no problem. I start with the proxy analysis because most of the students I get in this class have never taken the time to read a proxy. A proxy, if you go to the SEC's website, you go to www.sec.gov, it will be Form DEF, so David Edward Frank, 14A, also known as the proxy. So you're going to select a company to work on this semester. You're going to go to the forum on Canvas. You're going to say, hey, I'm Vern, I got Campbell Soup. Then you're going to go find the proxy for Campbell Soup. You're going to read it or scan it or throw it into ChatGPT and ask AI to summarize it for you. And then you're going to do this project. And this project requires you to understand what's in that proxy. Specifically, I want you to tell me a little bit about the management and the board of directors. Little bit, not just hardly any. If you see anything jump out at you, just capture it. What I really want to know is what their salary is. How much do these people get paid? That's easy to find in the proxy. The next one is a little bit more challenging. I want to understand their incentive comp. Every single one of these managers, every single one of these CEOs, they're going to have incentive comp, stock options, restricted stock units, options, other options package, grants. There's 5 or 6 different ways that equity and quasi-equity can be conferred on management. And they all have different advantages and and they're all linked to different performance measures. One of the most common performance measures is earnings per share. You have return on assets, return on equity, half a dozen other different very common ratios. Find out what that is. Find out what that is. Once you know what it is, we're going to spend the rest of the semester playing a little game. I call this game Find the Penny. And what I mean by that is I want you to understand how changes in the financial statements, even pennies, affect your management team's incentive-based comp. So I'm going to give you the choice. I'm going to give you the choice of accounting policy A or accounting policy B. And they're going to have different effects on earnings per share, return on equity, return on assets, profit margin, so on and so forth. So if you have the choice of accounting policy A, accounting policy B, you basically have the choice of stated earnings per share A or stated earnings per share B. Now, if you're a management, if you're a CEO and your compensation is linked to earnings per share, which accounting policy do you think you're going to pick? Well, lo and behold, you'll find those accounting policies have a very high correlation with which one gets the management team paid. I don't want you all to leave the block school and find yourself in the C-suite someday and not understand how you get yourself paid by choosing amongst various accounting policies. So one of the benefits of this class is that when you are in the C-suite, you're going to be able to select the accounting policy that triggers those stock options a little bit faster. And it happens all the time on the street. And you just know how somebody gets paid and you're playing that little game of follow the penny. You're like, oh, well, surprise, surprise. They're also using LIFO accounting for their inventory. Incentive-based comp, options, grants, restricted stock units, warrants, sweetheart deal. Find any conflicts of interest in that proxy. And ChatGPT is going to do a lot of this for you. It's a 100-page document, so they'll help you run it down. The conflicts of interest can be unbelievable. Unbelievable. I was reading a proxy a couple of years ago, probably 4 or 5 semesters ago now. I forget the name of the company, but the management team had decorated the office with private art from the CEO's son. And the rental agreement on that private art that was used to decorate the home office was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And stuff. So you need to know that this stuff exists. So when you want to negotiate a private art deal, you all got art at home. You all probably know somebody that runs a business. You need to be able to negotiate your own private art deal, decorate their home office, and then you can cash that paycheck for yourself. That will be disclosed in the proxy. So those types of conflicts of interest, I I get a kick out of them. I hope you get a kick out of them too. Just some of the stuff that corporate America gets away with is amusing to me. Maybe it should make me irate. I don't know. I find it amusing. So that's the proxy analysis. That'll hit us in week 2, and then we'll be off and running. Questions? Let's go over here to, here's our Canvas site. I owe you a new syllabus. I'll be using the announcements quite frequently to direct your attention to YouTube and whatever else. This class has a bi-weekly cadence. So I teach every other week in this room. On the off weeks, I send you a link to a YouTube session. So that accommodates my schedule. Try to make myself available in between those time periods as much as I can, but it seems to work for most students. So next week, next Tuesday, I won't be here. So we won't have class on ground next Tuesday. The next time we're going to meet is in 2 weeks, module 3. So next week will be a recorded YouTube lecture. Yes.
Just wanted to ask you, where did we go for the proxy analysis?
Good question. So did you pick your company already?
Still same.
What is it?
Thank you for Procter &
Procter & Gamble. Okay. The ticker symbol is
Gamble.
P&G. So what you're going to do, the best way to do this is just to go to Procter & Gamble Investor Relations. So it's your job to understand Procter & Gamble, the company, how they do business, their financial statements, so on and so forth. And the Investing Relations website is one of the best places to start for any company when you're just trying to get an understanding of what they do. Now, let me put an asterisk on everything that I'm going to say about the Investing Relations website, because what you all have to remember is that this website has been designed by management for management. Everything that you see on this site has been specially curated to tell their side of the story. They've prettied everything up. So just know that when you come here. Nevertheless, there's usually a link out here to SEC statements. So financials, annual reports, SEC filings right there under financials. So you're going to come out here and you're going to click on SEC filings. And they have select year, 2025, all forms. Let's look for proxy. There it is, DEF 14A proxy statement definitive. And we have it in a PDF. There you go. P&G's proxy statement. So it's only 138 pages long, no problem. One of the reasons why I say I think you'll find AI of particular use when you're going through it. But even if you don't have AI, you can skim through it pretty quickly. The section that talks about salaries and managerial comp is much shorter. Conflicts of interest are pretty clearly disclosed most of the time.
By regulation, will this be the same that's on the SEC website as well?
Yes, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, because if you don't find the proxy on the Investor Relations website, it's usually easier to find there. But if you don't find it there, you can go to sec.gov and you'll type in the ticker symbol for Procter & Gamble, and P&G will pop up, and you'll click on P&G filings. And you can go over here to filing type, or just scroll down until you see the DEF. There it is. And there it is. Yeah, so same proxy right there, filed with the SEC. Not quite as user-friendly to navigate, but it's the same thing. As we get into our research projects, if you're on P&G's website, Another one of the most useful tabs that you'll see out here is this events and presentations. So if you come out to the events and presentations, you'll see that Procter & Gamble presented at the Morgan Stanley Global Consumer Retail Conference. And there's a webcast associated with that you can register for. Those presentations are a great way to get a jump start on understanding what a company does, what their corporate strategy is, where they're investing their cash, strategic initiatives, so on and so forth. Okay, back to Canvas. I'm just going through these tabs here. So if you get to modules, under modules, you'll see resources, the homework discussion board. There, if you get stuck on a homework question, you can come out here to the homework discussion board to understand, somebody else might have gotten stuck on the same thing. Proxy and government assignment. So basically the same thing we just talked about there. There's the solutions manual that I mentioned a minute ago. Research project. So if you click on research project here, it gives you the rubric for that. Let me go back. There's some old sample reports here. Qualcomm is probably the best example. Just click on the Qualcomm research report if you want to understand what it is that we're looking for. This is the template on the front page here. Every template has to look the same. I'll give you an Excel file that has this all laid out so you can just fill in the information, but it needs to look exactly like this. It needs to be broken down into these 4 major sections. You see on the front cover there, the research project is divided into what I call the 4 M's. We'll talk a lot more about this, but the 4 M's are management, mix pricing, and mark. So management team, the biggest mistakes I've ever personally made in the world of investing have all boiled down to pairing capital with management teams that were not of high integrity. We're talking borderline fraud, they were hiding things, they didn't have enough of their own money invested in the company, just bad news. Bad man. So that's why it's first on the list. Man, might be the best piece of advice I can ever give you when it comes to investing. Put your money with people that you trust, people that you hold in high esteem. This person seems like a role model to you. That's where you need to be looking for good investment. So management, moat. Moat is, think of that as a strategic competitive advantage. So Apple's a great example of a company with a moat. Their brand is so strong. Walmart's a great example of a company with a moat, their economies of scale, demand and pricing power. We'll talk a lot more about that. Mispricing, that's simply, you can have a great company with a great management team, but if the price is too high, if it's too expensive, you don't have an opportunity. So at the end of the day, we have to take the assessment of these opportunities and determine what the quote unquote fair price is. So that's mispricing. And then lastly is mark. You can think of that as the ESG component that's so popular in the world of investing right now, environmental, social, governance. How's this company leaving its mark on it? Are they in a business that you'd be proud to say you were a part of? So that's our framework, risks, challenges, and then these research reports are broken down with an executive summary at the top, about 10 pages, and then an appendix. Everything beyond 10 to 12 pages is an appendix, and we just go through module by module, and I want you to break down the company and give me some insights into how their accounting is or is not relevant to module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4. By the time we get to lease accounting, I think it's module 6. So you got a section of your report titled module 6, lease accounting, and if you're working on Southwest Airlines, that's going to be a lengthy section of your report. But if you're working on some company that doesn't have much lease outstanding, you're going to be able to go to that section of your report and say, this doesn't apply to my company because they don't have any lease outstanding. That's sufficient. Tell me what I need to know. If it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. So we have a little bit of a different assignment. depending on which company you select. And then that just kind of cascades all the way down to the bottom of the report. And the other key piece of that, which I will grade you on, is the works cited page. So next week or the following week, I'm going to take you through all the resources that are available through the block school library so that you can begin to compile everything that you'll need to build this report. As you compile those source documents, I'm going to encourage you to begin to make your works cited page. Out there on our YouTube site, there's a video that teaches you how to use Microsoft Word's works cited add-in or bibliography add-in. If you're just disciplined about getting these sources in your add-in, then that works cited becomes feasible. So this is a key component of presenting this report as a writing sample to any future employer. You give a future employer a writing sample that has a nice cover page on it, shows what you spent some time to make it look good. And it's accompanied by a works cited page that shows future employer how much effort you put into finding all the source documents and tying them back within the report. They're going to be impressed. Okay, that's a preview of Canvas. All the PowerPoints are out there. There's practice tests out here, old quizzes, not graded, but I get a lot of questions from students wanting to know, what's the exam going to be like? You can take an old exam. That's a pretty good way to get a feel for that. And then just other resources. And that is that. Okay. 6:22. So I have a little bit of time to go through module 1, but before I go through module 1, what questions do you all have for me? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
I frustrate a lot of students
Yeah.
with answers
Yeah.
like that. Let me tell you how it works. I won't count off if it's late. We're gonna get to the first exam. Everybody's gonna take the first exam. That's worth 150 points. And if the average score on that exam is a C, whatever that would be, 100 points, I'm gonna say, well, I didn't do a very good job lecturing. If that's the low score, we need to curve that one. So I'm gonna give everybody a curve if you have all your homework. Because I don't think it's fair for me to award somebody in class a curve if they haven't kept up with their homework. So I don't count off if your homework's late, but I also won't give you the benefit of a curve if your homework is late. Does that make sense? I don't think it's fair. Students who have kept up with their homework and had it done on time. Now, the last few years, I haven't had to curve, so it really hasn't mattered, but I have done that before, and that seems to be a fair trade. Otherwise, I'm as lenient as any professor you'll probably ever have here at UMKC. You get that homework in to me before I sit down on the last day to turn in grades, I'm going to give you the credit for the homework. So it needs to be in by May the 9th. Because I'll grade the class on May the 10th. And if you're got it in, you'll get the credit for it. Okay, so like I say, module 1, framework and analysis for valuation. This should all be a review. These slides are going to take you through the basic financial statements, so on and so forth. I really like this slide. This is our whole class. If I could take our whole class and distill it down into one slide, this would be it. And it's really the blueprint for hold on, bear with. It's really our blueprint for everything that we're going to be talking about. We're going to spend the next 2 weeks on understanding the business environment. So hopefully these concepts have hit you once or twice before in your management classes. Horse by horses, we'll talk about that. We'll do a SWOT analysis. We'll look at the value chain. Those terms should be familiar.
all we're really doing is looking at the advantages of your company relative to their peers. And how are they able to be successful? Because business is a big game. How are you getting to the client before your competitors are getting to the client? How are you pricing your product in the market to make it competitive relative to your competitors in the market? You know, what's the gamesmanship around all that? So that kind of helps us out understanding the environment that your companies play in. And then modules 3 through module 10, heavy accounting. We're going to talk about inventory accounting, release accounting, tax accounting, and UBTI, and then we're going to move into step 3, forecasting those financial statements, and then lastly, we're going to use a triangulation approach. So no single valuation methodology is going to be sufficient. Everybody's done a discounted cash flow analysis. You head nods, yep, great. We're going to do one of those. We're going to do a multiple analysis. So we're going to see how your companies trade relative to their peer group. We're going to look at how your companies trade relative to their own operating history. Everything's expensive right now, by the way. So I love to talk about the markets. If y'all have any questions about the markets, we can waste 15 minutes of any class you want to waste talking about the markets. It's always more interesting than the slides are, but unfortunately the slides are necessary. Okay. Module 1, talking about international standards versus domestic standards, all of the major cash flows, statements of cash flows, balance sheet, income statement. I don't spend any time lecturing on those because they're all review, which makes for a really nice way to start this class. I can spend more time on the syllabus, answering questions, so on and so forth. Here's the Porter's value chain framework. So I'm going to sound like an AI homer by the time this class is over, but I really do love how these artificial intelligence programs can take a concept that has been so widely taught in business schools for decades and distill it down to a one-pager in no time. So because this is module 1, you're not going to have any problem finishing the section of your research report that applies to the company that you pick with AI. So go take the P&G, for example, go to ChatGPT, say, hey, I need to do some research on ChatGPT. Can you evaluate it based on Porter's 5 forces? It's going to give you some great work. Do that. So the 5 forces are, here on slide 37, industry competition, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, threat of substitution, and threat of entry. So let's break these down by one of the companies with a strong moat that I just mentioned. How about Apple? So for Apple, one of the largest companies in the world, what's their competition? Just out of curiosity, raise your hand if you do not use an Apple phone. Okay, so you all nerds are with me. Most of us use Apple. So their competition is low in this market. Now, if you go outside of the United States, and here's where us nerds get some points, the majority of market share globally is not with Apple. You go to Asia, most of those phones are on another operating system. So industry competition is market dependent. Bargaining power of buyers? Nah, we don't have any bargaining power. We go to the Apple store and we pay whatever price is on it. Or that's going to continue. Bargaining power of suppliers? We'll get to this later in the semester. The bargaining power of suppliers that make the chips and the goods, the cases and everything that go into an iPhone is almost negative. They have no bargaining power whatsoever. Apple tells them when they want them to deliver the original equipment. And then Apple tells them when they're going to pay them for their equipment. Apple is one of the most powerful companies in the world when it comes to negotiating contractual arrangements with their suppliers. So good, as a matter of fact, that typically to do business with Apple, you have to agree to deliver the goods, allow Apple to manufacture the phone, allow Apple to ship the phones, allow Apple to sell the phones,
allow Apple to collect the accounts receivable on the phones, wait 30 days, and then pay you. So you typically get paid, when you do business with Apple, you typically get paid 90 to 120 days after you deliver the product to them. So bargaining powers of supplier. Threat of substitution, very low for a company called Apple. Threat of entry, again, very low. Go through this basic analysis for the companies that you're going to be working on so that you can understand their pricing power, so that you can understand how likely it is that they're able to keep those high margins today and in the future. When you know how likely it is that they'll be able to keep those margins, then the next question is, are they going to be able to take all that cash that they're generating and redeploy it in a way that accelerates growth? So now you have revenues, you have margins, you have growth rates. With revenues, margins, and growth rates, you can begin to forecast financials. Once you have forecasted financial statements, you can bring all those cash flows back to the present value or the discounted cash flow analysis, and you know what the company's worth. But it all starts, in order to know what a company's worth, you have to know what their competitive landscape looks like. SWOT analysis is basically just a different version of Porter's 5 forces, broken down according to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Another great assignment for artificial intelligence. There are some slides in module 1 that begin to touch on return on assets and break down return on assets. These are preview slides. I don't talk about them here because we're going to spend a whole module on return on equity, but I do like the author's inclusion of little graphs like that. You get the productivity along the horizontal axis, so this asset turnover, and you get profitability along the vertical axis. So that's return on assets. So usually a company's one or the other. They sell a whole bunch of widgets at low margin, or they sell very high margin goods and services, but they don't sell very many. So you have Walmart, Best Buy, and Costco down here selling all sorts of goods. And up here you have Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amgen, it looks like Oracle. So higher value product. This is a good way to understand the company that you're analyzing is to chart these metrics so that you know where they would fall relative to some of their competition. Okay, that's everything I wanted to touch on in module 1. I skipped all the review stuff, and I skipped all the stuff that had dedicated modules later on. Okay. Next week, remember, we're not meeting in class. I'll send an announcement. I'm going to get that syllabus uploaded, the spring 2026 syllabus uploaded. When I do, I'm going to send out an announcement. That announcement is going to say, hey, everybody, spring syllabus is uploaded. Go out there and click on the link to our My Business and Modules course shell. Sign up for that shell so that you can do the homework. Any other questions before we call it a man?
Like you want the info card?
I want the info card in 2 weeks. That'd be fantastic.
Did you just randomly bring up Kimball's soup stock earlier, or is that like part of it? They've been hit like really hard, so. It's
Oh, no, I've looked at it very fast.
random stuff.
I haven't looked at it in a long time. Their stock price is way down, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. I wonder what's driving that.
One of their heads of IT called it genetically weird shit, basically. So,
Okay, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to know more about it.
yeah. They're not on the list, so I was gonna choose them.
Yeah, choose it. All right, gang, thank you. I look forward to the class. People, was there another question? No. Okay, good. All right, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, somebody.
What happened here?
They're ahead of, and I like, hate that part. So that
Oh, I remember that. Hey.
Are you in 3 months? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I know you said it's pet peeve coming after class, and I was just trying to work through it, how I should not ask this as loaded as possible. I just didn't want to ask like a super loaded question in class, really. So, two-parter sort of, I work for JP Morgan Chase, I go full-time in summer, as soon as I graduate. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I love it so far, but, yeah. Yep, so I'm trying, or I'm on the, just through the help of everybody who works there and things like that, trying to fast track towards the personal advisor. That's in the branches, some of the ratios. And just based on some of the conversation I've had with my own personal one, and then the ones that I've just kind of shadowed at Chase, they have a little bit of different opinion. One of them is Morgan Stanley, that's my personal one, and then JP Morgan. Morgan Stanley's less concerned with tax strategy. They say, go talk to an accountant to a certain extent. JP Morgan seems to have more thorough insight into tax strategies that they'll just discuss with you in person. Do you think one is more important than the other? Unfortunately, it just be one of those things where it doesn't hurt to understand more in-depth aspect of personal tax strategies. Obviously, some of them revolve around a business, whether it be, people pulling in their own.
You got a lot of them to say about.
That's what I was saying. So I was trying to ask it in the least loaded.
No, and that's, it's okay to ask a question like that in front of everybody because it's a really nice detour. And everybody got to learn a little bit about personal tax strategies. The way that it works within our firm, generally speaking, when if you're your age, if you're in your 20s or 30s, tax strategy is not going to move the needle for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to where you should be putting your money. So you need to be saving your money in a 401k. Well, until you have maxed out your 401k, your IRA, your traditional IRA, your health savings account, and 529s, all of your tax deferred opportunities, then you put money away in tax work. That's when tax strategy starts to become important. That's people in their 20s and 30s, probably less than 1 to 2% of those people are in that category. Now, if you're in that category and you have a bunch of money in a trust account, all of a sudden taxes become real mean.
Yeah.
The capital gains tax rate is 15 to 20%. So you need to be real mindful that you keep everything that you hold inside those portfolios in that long-term capital gains rate, because the short term is going to change your ordinary income, which could be as high as 35. So the spread on that is 15%.
Yeah, I was just, because most of the people that I've chatted they're approaching retirement. My parents, my mom refuses to retire, but my dad's been retired for a number of years and things like that. So that's the conversation that seems to be the trend. We don't get a lot of people, at least in Chase, that are in the low, really, I'd say below like the 35 threshold where they're starting to look for annuities and things like that because everything's maxed out.
JP Morgan Chase, you guys can build a business with clientele that don't have $1 to $2 million. Your average household.
Yeah, I think the location I work at, they don't take new business below 500.
Okay.
So, but
they're solving for the income that they're going to be empowered in their retirement. Every time they reach for that income, the tax man hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So tax strategy becomes a huge component of the overall value you get.
That's how you work.
Okay. I was just kind of curious because Morgan Stanley is also around that 500,000, at least the one that we talked about, 500,000 for new business. So I just thought it was interesting because it almost seems like an apples to apples thing. Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, similar threshold for that. Those offices, what they like to manage and things like that. So I just thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And without the tax component, you'll never be able to appeal to the business owner that's going to be average account balance of 5 to 10 doesn't work. Because when you sell your business, well, now you have huge gains that you're in shelter and a variety of accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you know about, how to do taxes, for high net worth investors, the better of a niche you're gonna be able to carve.
Okay. Are we gonna go over any kind of like personal tax? I know this is,
This is all corporate, so.
I got you, yeah, corporate, that's what I was.
It's a nice complement to a financial planning, focus or major, but this is all.
Okay. I was gonna say, I just always had my dad was an accounting professor here.
Oh, he was?
When he retired.
Would I have known him?
Ooh, probably Pat Brown.
Yeah, you get older.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
doesn't,
say,
doesn't ring a
he
bell.
was here, oh man. When I was